Okay, let's dive right into this explainer and tackle what I honestly consider to be one of the ultimate modern paradoxes. Picture this. You've got a nation with vast, expansive oceans, incredibly fertile land, a vibrant, creative youth population, and this incredibly rich cultural heritage. I mean, on paper, it sounds like an unstoppable superpower, right? Yet, Indonesia is still officially categorized as a developing nation. So why is that? Today, we're going to act as future detectives to unlock the mystery of Golden Indonesia 2045, which is the year the country celebrates its 100th anniversary of independence. We'll be using the Phase D Social Studies Guide to break down exactly what's standing between incredible potential and actualized success. Now, think about this question for a second. If every single student in Indonesia suddenly scored a perfect 100 on their exams, would the country automatically, instantly become a developed nation? Well, the surprising answer is no, not necessarily. Because having raw potential, whether we're talking about perfect grades, a massive population, or just endless natural resources, it just isn't enough on its own. A truly developed nation requires this complex web of interconnected factors to actively support one another. Let's look at a really grounded example: the famous cornfields of Gorontalo. Imagine two farms with the exact same rich soil. Farm A gets the right amount of fertilizer, has excellent irrigation, and is worked by highly skilled farmers. Farm B, on the other hand, is poorly cared for, has limited access to water, and the farmers just don't have the proper tools. Which farm is going to yield a better harvest? Obviously Farm A, right? It perfectly demonstrates that having the raw resources is really just step one. Without proper management and skilled labor, the yield is always going to fall short of its true potential. So the crucial takeaway here is that building a nation functions a whole lot like playing a city building game. If you've ever played City Skylines or SimCity, you know exactly what I mean. To make your virtual city thrive, you need absolutely everything working in harmony. You need the power grids, the water supply, schools, roads, a robust economy. If just one of those sectors fails, like say the traffic system just completely grinds to a halt, the whole city's development slows down, no matter how amazing your power grid is. And you know what? A real-world nation operates on that exact same principle. Before we investigate any further, let's clearly define our end goal so we know exactly what we're aiming for here. According to the Phase D Social Studies Guide, a developed nation isn't just some vague feeling of wealth. It's strictly defined by key indicators. First, a high per capita income, which means the average wealth of its citizens is strong. Second, a high Human Development Index, or IPM, which measures things like education and life expectancy. And third, the widespread use of advanced technology. So that's our finish line for 2045. All right, moving into Section 1, presenting the evidence, specifically the 4 strengths of the nation. First up on our evidence board, we have an incredible wealth of natural resources. Think back to our earlier example. Gorontalo isn't just known for its corn, but also its abundant fish and marine life. Across the entire archipelago, the fertile soil and vast oceans provide absolutely crucial building blocks. If managed correctly, these aren't just exports. They are the fundamental fuel for a self-sustaining, advanced economy. Second is something economists call the demographic dividend, or bonus demographic. In really simple terms, this means Indonesia is entering a golden window where it has an immense, highly productive working-age population. We're literally talking about millions of young people who are ready to learn, eager to work, and hungry to create. This is a massive engine of human capital that, frankly, many older, aging nations around the world are incredibly jealous of. For our third piece of evidence, just look at this vast web of domestic and national main ports linking thousands of islands. This isn't just water we're looking at. It's a built-in, natural highway system. This strategic geographic layout means that internal trade and the movement of goods and people can be scaled immensely, essentially turning a fragmented archipelago into a unified economic powerhouse. And when we zoom out to the global perspective, the geographic evidence is truly undeniable. Notice how Indonesia sits perfectly astride the absolute most critical arteries of east-west global trade routes. Ships moving between the massive economic giants of the east and the west essentially have to pass through this neighborhood. That strategic placement is an unchangeable, incredibly valuable asset on the path to becoming a developed nation. Finally, our fourth strength is the incredibly rapid adoption of technology in the digital economy. I mean, we've gone from an era where doing business meant you had to go out and rent a physical storefront to an era where anyone can run a global e-commerce business right from their own bedroom. The sheer quickness with which Indonesian youth are adopting and innovating within the digital space is a powerful, powerful accelerator for national progress. Okay, Section 2. Let's start interrogating the suspects, the barriers to progress.
So if we have all this undeniable potential, who exactly are the suspects holding us back? Well, the first major barrier is uneven education. While some regions boast lightning-fast fiber optic internet, smart boards, and excellent facilities, others are still severely limited, lacking even the most basic infrastructure. This inequality means that a huge portion of that demographic dividend we just talked about isn't getting the tools they need to succeed. And, as we all know, you just can't build a stable house on an uneven foundation.
The second suspect is corruption. To put it simply and plainly, this is when individuals take rights, funds, and resources that do not belong to them. Every single time this happens, it acts exactly like a leak in our SimCity water pipes. It drains vital national resources away from public development, directly and severely slowing down the country's progress toward that 2045 goal. The third significant barrier is unemployment. Now, what's really fascinating here is that this isn't always about a lack of jobs, but rather a mismatch. We have a situation where the specific skills that graduates are learning just don't always align with the actual dynamic needs of the modern workforce. You can have plenty of eager workers, but if their keys don't fit the locks of the new digital economy, progress completely stalls. As we analyze these barriers, it is absolutely vital to avoid some very common traps in our thinking. First off, don't fall into the trap of thinking developed nations only focus on money. High-quality human capital and education are far more critical. Second, it's a huge mistake to believe that progress is solely the government's job. And third, frequently complaining about the state of things without actively contributing your own skills will literally never solve the puzzle. Real progress requires active, hands-on participation from the entire society.
Which brings us to Section 3, the Master Plan, Unlocking the Case. We can actually systematically tackle these massive national issues by breaking them down using a logical, 5-step problem-solving method. Let's look at a quick example. Step 1, identify the problem. Let's say low national literacy rates. Step 2, find the root cause. Perhaps people just aren't reading enough daily. Step 3, create a targeted solution, like instituting a mandatory 15-minute daily reading program. Step 4, implement it. And finally, Step 5, evaluate the results. Did it work? If not, adjust. We can scale this exact same logic up to solve complex national infrastructure and economic issues. But the real key to unlocking 2045 lies in a foundational mindset, which is brilliantly captured in the SMART framework. This stands for maximizing our sumber or resources, building manusia berqualitas, which is quality human capital, being adaptive to new technologies, staying rajan or diligent and innovative, and finally operating with tanggung jawab, deep responsibility. If the nation builds its foundation on these 5 pillars, the chances of reaching that developed status absolutely skyrocket. All of this builds into my absolute favorite analogy of this whole explainer, the absurd group project. Think of Indonesia as the ultimate school group project. We clearly have the best resources and the smartest, most capable members in our group, but we all know what happens in a group project if everyone procrastinates and just says, I'll do it later. None of it works. The smartest group will fail if they don't take action. Potential means absolutely nothing without execution. So as we close out this explainer, I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. The clock is ticking toward the year 2045. When the nation reaches its golden centennial and officially turns 100, what is your role going to be? Remember, you are the demographic dividend. Will you be someone who just watched the mystery unfold from the sidelines, or will you be the one who actively contributed to solving it? Because the future isn't just a destination we arrive at. It's something we have to build, and that starts right now.